Huh. Looks like we have a fairly robust group.
All right. I guess we can go ahead and get started here. Let me go ahead and get my spiel out of the way so we can get to the bulk of this. I want to welcome everybody here for our webinar on coachability. I'm Todd Lydon with the Wake Tech Entrepreneurship and Small Business Center. Of course, the Small Business Center, if I'm sure most are probably familiar with, but we usually have some folks who are not. We're at all the community colleges, all 58 throughout North Carolina, where we host these webinars and seminars, just like this one, and also offer sit-down one-on-one counseling with folks, most of it virtually now, but we do still meet people in the office occasionally when they want to come in. This is the map of everybody throughout the state. So if you're not from Wake County, that's a-okay. We got you covered with someone in your area that can help you out directly if it's not us. And that's also a-okay. We love when folks are coming from all over the state to take advantage of what we offer here. On the entrepreneurship side, one of the things that we just re-upped, and I got to change this slide because we moved from Martin Street to Wilmington Street. The pop-up shops program will be moving, and they just finished the applications for that, so hopefully we'll be working with those folks. And then in the spring of next year, we'll come back around to our Contractors Academy, and of course all the launch wake programs are split evenly pretty much between most of the municipalities supporting our programming. 10-week cohort-based class. It's free to attend, but it is competitive because most of the towns get a lot of folks who want to attend and apply for that. So keep your eye out for those. Otherwise, we're here to help businesses start and grow, and primarily through everything we do here. And it's designed for creating jobs. That's what we're here for. This week this is day 4 for us of the Small Business Week programming that we've been offering all week. So we've got one more tomorrow. So I didn't have a chance to change the slide. I've been so busy this week. But that was from yesterday's. Didn't get a chance to update, but we've got towards the end of the month, we've got a food truck startup seminar with one of our clients who has gone through and not only created a food truck, but also got in a retail space just recently as well. So she's doing great. And then towards the end of the month, we'll be doing a webinar for coaches and consultants on business development through connection with Tiffany Sturdivant. And then, of course, we always have a CPA or an accountant, and Ryan Breen will be doing legal liability as a webinar for us on Thursday, May 22nd. So we got a lot of great opportunities coming up. And another one we just added was commercial contracts in landscaping with Ron Civis. He just retired recently, and it's going to be really interesting because he grew his business here over the last 15 years and then just sold it not long ago. So. And if you're interested in finding anything else we do, make sure you follow us on the socials. This is Instagram. The only one we're not on because we're not allowed to be is TikTok. But you can find all our stuff on all the other socials, including LinkedIn, etc., where you can find other things. We like to post and share other stuff that is going on, not just what we do, but what most of our resource partners and other folks are doing. So you can always follow us on there. So today, we're here to talk about coachability, and I got 2 great guests, and but I'm not even sure how to get into this, Mike. I'll let you maybe do the introduction of what you all do, and then we'll get to Amari who went through it, right?
Yeah, great. That sounds good. Thanks for having us again, Todd. You're a great partner. This program is a program that is part of Campbell University's Lundy-Fetterman School of Business. It's part of the MBA program. It's a capstone program here at Campbell University. I've actually been involved. Dr. Mosashori is in the audience here. Shout out to Dr. Mosashori. Dr. Mosashori and I have worked together for 30 years. We started doing this 30 years ago. And it made it a capstone course at Campbell University. All the MBAs, when they finish all their core coursework and all their electives, they have to take this capstone course. And it's very much like a residency requirement. If you think about a medical doctor, they can, get admitted to med school, pass their tests, pass the boards, but they have to complete a residency requirement in order to be an MD. And so at Campbell, we take the same approach. So I'm currently the director of graduate programs here at Campbell University. I've been adjunct faculty for 30 years and will continue to do so. This course is our baby. And I think that's, I've got, prior to working here at Campbell University, I worked for the University of North Carolina system, providing advice to businesses in North Carolina for 28 years. Worked with, in the last 10, 15 of those years, focused primarily on businesses that were doing business internationally. And to this day, I'm still involved with that through the North Carolina World Trade Association, the North Carolina District Export Council, and on a national level, NASBITE. So that's enough about me. You're muted, Todd.
So the capstone, that's been 30 years though, right?
Yeah, at least 30. I'm afraid to say, yeah, I guess it probably would have been since 1996, 96. No, before that. Yeah, 1993, 1994. 30 years, a long time. Been a long time. We've been doing this for a long time, very long time.
So you've got it really refined now. Why don't you tell everybody what the program is and how it works for folks?
Well, first of all, it's a free and confidential program. It's a course. So we have MBAs. For example, this summer as of now, we have 16 MBAs registered for the course. So we like to have teams of 3. That's our ideal number. So we know we've got about 5 teams. We may get a few more registered. It starts in about 8 weeks. But basically we establish teams of 3 MBAs. And the course, the service that we provide to the business community is free and confidential. It's free, there's no cost, and it is confidential. So all the MBAs, first thing out of the gate is we review standard of conduct, and they sign a standard of conduct memo, which includes confidentiality, conflict of interest, conflict of commitment, all those things. We review all that with them. This is a professional course. So knock on wood, 30 years, we've never had any issues with confidentiality. So we manage that right out of the gate. And then the goal of the 8-week project is to improve the competitiveness and profitability of the business. It's just that simple. How can we help the business owner make adjustments to make that business more competitive and more profitable? And so that would be the goal. The objective, maybe 3 of them. Number 1, the team, we expect the team to establish a collaborative relationship with the client. And there's a lot of details that go into that. But I think the most obvious would be trust and understanding trust and the trust creation process. And so we work on that with the students, and we emphasize the relationship that they have with the client and how important that is to establish a collaborative relationship. That's number 1. And then number 2, the second objective would be to execute the tasks, timelines, deliverables of the project. We have a very rigorous set of tasks and timelines that have to be met over the 8-week period. We break this down into 4 phases, and in each phase there are tasks and subtasks to complete. And then the last part of that objective would be to constantly remind the students to make sure that they're giving attention to both the business technical issues as well as the relationship they have with the client. So they need to do both. So that's the goal and the objectives of the course. And we later on in this, I can share a screen and show someone like a schedule so they can see kind of what that looks like over an 8-week period and some of the tasks in there. But the overview is that they're going to work with that client. Number one, establish a collaborative relationship with that client, which requires skills, abilities, attitudes. Then they're going to execute all the tasks, timelines, and deliverables associated with this. How do you help a company or a business become more competitive and profitable? And the third is kind of bringing that all together to make sure that all during that process, they're keeping equal attention to what are the business or technical issues, as well as the relationship they're having with that client. So that's it in a nutshell, Todd.
That is a nutshell. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today, which was with your experience, my experience, and then with Amari, who's our third on here today, and hands down, as I think you'll attest to, one of my favorite people to work with when it comes to coachability, and talk about what that means, because when you do this kind of work for a long time, you learn to really appreciate people who want to be coached and really take away from the relationship you end up developing with them. And so we almost want to think about what are the characteristics that we look for in coachability. And like I said, we can always, I could start with like Amari is great because she is incredibly communicative, which I think is one of the crucial ones. And so, Amari, what's your take? Oh, got on mute.
Let's see.
You should be able to unmute. Oh dear.
Let me see if I can. You might be able to go, Todd, to her. I see her. I see on our screen, it looks like her mic is
Yeah,
closed.
she's muted. Uh-oh.
Well, while Todd's troubleshooting that, I'll tell you that most of the time it's a very I've worked with MBA programs all across the state, both public schools, private schools. I've done Wake Forest, Duke, Carolina, NC State, ECU, Western Carolina. You name it. Elon. There are. I really can't think of many, if any, MBA programs that have this kind of course, because it's like a high wire act. It's really it requires a lot. The course is reliant upon a client, and the students, we have students who've never consulted before, right? They're for almost without exception, the students, this is their first consulting experience at all. They've got a lot of technical knowledge about business, but they've never consulted and tried to work in a project like this before. So that's something that we have to really manage and pay attention to. The client comes in with their own set of experience, insight, and wisdom. They're invested in their business. They have skin in the game. It's important to them. And they have their own framework and their own perspective about business. And they have an idea or a vision of what it looks like when it's working. And we try to get an idea from the client of what that business looks like if it's working from the client's perspective. And if it's not there yet, what's the gap, and what are some of the things that we may be able to do to help close that gap? And that takes, as you can as you can imagine, that's a blend of not just technical skills. And the technical skills might be things like, let's do a customer analysis or a customer profile. Let's look at competitors and do a competitive analysis. Let's do a little bit of industry research to understand your business and how your business fits in its industry. We'll look at mission statement, and we'll look at, we get into numbers as much as the clients will allow us to. We get into numbers. We look at profit and loss. We look at, we do the students have to do a break-even analysis, which means they have to understand the costing and pricing that a client has for their products or services. We get into cash flow projections. What's that going to look like over the next year, month by month, and then years 2 and 3 are annualized. The students do all of that over week by week by week, and they bring all that together. There's a combination of qualitative and quantitative data that they've collected over that period of time, and they bring all that together in a SWOT analysis. They take that SWOT analysis and they do something called a strategic factor analysis to identify what are some strategies that might be considered by the client. And it's a tough, it's a lot of fun, but you really have to pay attention to it, because all along, week by week, the relationship between the client and the students develops and grows, and there tends to be an increase in trust as the week by week passes, as you can imagine. And clients have different approaches. Some clients get more involved with the team, and other clients kind of provide information to the team, but they kind of stay out of the team's way and let the team do what they want to do, and then they'll do check-ins. Both ways work. There's not a right way necessarily, but as long as the business owner is engaged in the process and supportive of the process, we make sure the students do their part. At the end of this, the business owner will have a set of recommendations, short-term and long-term recommendations, and we stress that we don't want a lot of either one. We just want two, maybe a couple of short-term and a couple of long-term recommendations. That may not sound like a lot, but for a business owner with a lot on their plate, it's much more of a quality than quantity issue. What's one or two things the business owner may adopt and do that can help improve the way they operate their business and be more competitive and be more profitable. And then some of those things are things that can be done in a short-term period of time, and other things may take a little more time to put together. And there's no two cases that are alike. 30 years times, I don't know, 30 years times 30 projects a year, whatever that amounts to. 30 years times 30, 30 projects a year, about 10 a semester, spring, summer, fall. And no two are alike. So have we got, Amari, if we got
I think we're good now. Can you hear me?
Oh, great.
There we are.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
there you go.
yes.
Because Amari's, as a business owner, I think Amari, I'm much more interested in what Amari has to say than what I'm telling you, that it's,
Yeah, well, what would you like to know?
Well, let's introduce your business a little bit so everybody has a context first.
Yeah, okay, so I run a business of Chinese martial arts. It's called East Cloud Kung Fu. We've been in business, it'll be 7 years in July. Well, on paper, actually, 7 years this month. But formal taking over the space will be 7 years in July. So yeah, we're a school of Chinese martial arts. I guess that's kind of our surface level image, because it's a lot more than that. But we offer a whole sort of buffet of Chinese martial arts, I'd like to say, because it's a variety of styles. So we have kind of the performance-based athletic arts, contemporary wushu and Shaolin. But then we have more of the like applicable arts that are more self-defense. So like we're looking at Wing Chun and Jeet Kune Do and kickboxing and wrestling. And then we have the internal arts, things like Tai Chi and Qigong, and meditation as well. So one of the things about it is it's very unique, at least in this area in terms of martial arts facilities, because first of all, there are very few schools of Chinese martial arts around here, and even fewer that are like ours. Usually schools, they kind of specialize in just one thing, one style, one lineage, whereas we kind of hold a lot of these small niche arts under one roof together. And on top of that, we're not just focused on the physical aspects of things. So there is a there's a lot of spirituality, there's a lot of philosophy. We also touch upon that sort of aspect of what we do just as much as the physical practice. The uniqueness, I think, is kind of, on one hand, it's wonderful. It's what helps us stand out. On the other hand, it's one of the things that makes it challenging for my business because it is very niche, because it is less heard of. It's not like your karate school on every corner, right? Or even now your MMA gyms or BJJ gyms. It's harder to sort of find our people. But then when we do find our people, we have longevity in our clientele. So yeah. So that's my business in a nutshell. I can't hear you.
You're muted,
Oh, you're
Todd.
muted, Todd.
I keep muting myself so nobody can hear me. But so you've done your client here, but you've also done a couple of other programs, and then eventually got to Campbell's last semester, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So last year I did the program with State, the consult your community program. I did a semester with them, and then this last semester was with Campbell. That's correct.
Was that, Amari, was that Dr. Lee Shamblin at NC State, or was that another program at NC State?
Oh, I am not sure. I'm sorry to
Okay.
say.
I think you would, if it was Lee, you would know because she's pretty hands-on. So I'm guessing it might be another program, but that's they only have 40,000 students there, so it could be any number of programs at NC State.
Sure. I'm under the impression it's quite a big one, and they have a lot of, not just State, but it's State's one of their chapters, and they're actually out on a lot of different schools.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you had lucky with Campbell because if I remember correctly, a couple of the folks on your team were actually had some experience with martial arts, right?
That's correct. Actually, all three of them were they're wrestlers, and I believe when they saw, I guess my school up on the list of potential clients, they chose me right away because of that. And actually, I really appreciated that. I with both programs, with State and with Campbell, there were both positive experiences, and I was really grateful for both teams. But I think one of the things that kind of, if I had a little bit of favoritism, it would have been towards this team. And I think in part because they are martial artists, right? So they not only on the business end could kind of see and understand me, but then they have insights into what I'm going through in my specific field because of their background. I mean, I think one of the guys has been in since he was like 4, a wrestler since he was really young. So they not only know business, they know martial arts, right? And that it gives them a kind of a one-up on that, but then also to be able to level with me, right? And understand the sort of mentalities that I have as I'm working on my martial arts business and trying to figure things out. So I really appreciated them. It was a great team. I enjoyed working with them very much.
I'm glad to hear that. We Dr. Mashoy and I took that into account. We had, I think we had 10 projects, and we had 34 MBAs in the spring. And Todd's been a partner in this for all along the while. So, but I was excited. Campbell's wrestling program and the wrestling team is a nationally recognized. They've done quite well on a national level. I'd say top 10, top 5, top 3, depending on the year in the nation.
Wow.
And the wrestling team, they're just a different cut. They're a different type of athlete here. They, as you can imagine, Amari, they're very disciplined. They're unassuming, very unassuming, very courteous and well-spoken. They're very good students.
Yeah.
But they really, it takes a special person to, it takes a special person to go through the rigorous work to wrestle, but anyway, they made a good team for you, and I was excited that they saw. I just felt I was very grateful to see that they gravitated immediately to your business, because I felt, and I asked, when we would have our weekly meetings, I would ask them. I said, well, what are you learning? Are there things that you're learning from Amari that, oh yeah, um, and then they talked about some of their own experience with different types of martial arts, and it was a good connection. And we try to do that. We'll have pharmacy students. Sometimes we'll have dual degree students. We'll have law students that are working on their MBA. We'll have pharmacy students that are working on the MBA. If we have a business, it's a life science business, for example, we may have if we have pharmacy MBAs, we'll have the pharmacy students maybe take the life science business because they have that strong biology background. So we do, as best we can, match the resumes of the MBA students up with the business so that there's some connection. Yeah, I remember as they went through the tasks week, it's really a gathering data. It's working on a relationship with Amari at the same time, kind of gathering data in a systematic way. Who are her customers? What do they look like? What are their attributes? What are her best clients? What do they look like? Make a profile of those. Where can we find more of them? Kind of thing. I recall some of it had to do with looking at, you have assets, and you have, are there ways that you can increase the utilization of your space and those types of things, and maximize some of those efficiencies. I remember some components of that without getting into too much detail, but I know that they enjoyed the project and they learned a lot. And the thing about this is, if you really think about it, in the ideal setting, the students learn a whole lot more having worked with a client who owns and operates a business than they would learn from me or you, Todd, just being an instructor. Because they're feeling it. They're feeling it through the client. That I really prefer small business clients, because when you get a small business client, you get that person who's got a stake in the game, who really is invested in it. If you send students to a Fortune 1000 company, they're put in a department, it's a job for those folks. Nothing wrong with that. It's a different experience altogether when you're and the kind of the spirit of Campbell University is one of service, right? Service leadership, service learning. And so, having an opportunity for a student to be in a position where they may be able to help a business and help a business owner is there's a lot of passion for that here. So it's a very rewarding experience, and arguably the one that they'll remember the most after they graduate. And many times in talking with employers and talking with students in their career when they come back for alumni week and things like that, 5 years out or 10 years removed, they'll talk about this class, and they'll talk about, I remember I had a client that made cabinets, and here was what their situation was, and we did this and we did that, and they still remember that, and they can recount that like it was yesterday. It makes a very significant impression on them. And the biggest thing, and we all know this, you don't have to have an education to know this, but it's one thing to learn something, to gain knowledge about it, but until you get your hands dirty and apply it, real learning transfer occurs when you have a chance to apply something. So it's much like reading a book on how to hit a golf ball. I could read that book and know it front cover to cover, but unless I go out there and try to hit that golf ball, the skills that are required to do this project are skills that have to be practiced. So this is it's really worked out for us, and continues to be and we don't make this. And the last thing I'll say is we make the students wait. They can't come into the MBA program and take this class right out of the gate. It's a capstone course, so they've got to have the majority of their coursework has to be done, because they're going to need to rely on some of those skills, the business analytics skills, the marketing skills, the accounting, the costing and accounting skills that they're going to need to execute on the tasks and timelines. And then and I'm not going to put, Mari, I'm not putting you on the spot, but you can speak to this as much as you want, but we put a heavy weight on the client's evaluation of the team in terms of the team's grade. So at the end, in the initial contract, the students have a meeting with the client, and they have a scope letter that details the tasks and timelines and deliverables of the project. It's called an entry and contracting meeting. It's the first meeting they have with the client, and they review this scope letter. And there are some conditions that both sides agree to. And one of the last conditions is the client agrees to provide feedback to the students as to how well they worked together as a team, executed the project, and added value, if in so many words. And so that grade component for the MBA student is actually rendered by the client. And I love that aspect of this course. And our clients are pretty fair. They're pretty. They'll mention the good, the bad, the ugly, and give a genuinely a fair evaluation. And so, as I recall, I think Amari was, if there's always room for improvement, but I think overall, I think you did. I'll let you talk about the evaluation, Amari.
Sure. If I remember correctly, it was a pretty good evaluation.
Yeah.
I appreciated the work with them. I wanted to speak to some of the things that you mentioned earlier, just about, I guess, coming back to coachability. Well, and one of the things that you said as well was, some people are they are hands-on working with the team, and some people mostly just give the information and let the team go. And I was more of the latter. I didn't come into business for business. I came into business for passion. And so maybe one of the things that helps me with being a coachable client is the fact that I recognize that, business is not where my mastery is, that I'm still in many ways, well, we call it in martial arts like beginner's mind, right? And so because basically I recognize I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, at this part, I know more than I used to, but because I know this is not my strong suit, I am open to hearing what people have to say, especially when that is what they're studying specifically. Like these kids, that's what they're studying. That's what they're gaining their expertise in. And I am, and especially as a solo entrepreneur, right? I do all of this myself. So honestly, I'm really grateful to even have a team to work with. Anytime I have a team to work with, I'm like, ah, thank you. Yes, because then it's, it helps take some burden off of myself, right? So yeah, they basically, they would ask me for whatever they need. I would send it their way and they would analyze through the things, and we'd do our weekly check-ins and we'd have a conversation. We'd fill in the gaps wherever. So that is more the direction that we took. Another thing that I wanted to speak to was that you mentioned the trust, right? And that is another big part of it. Again, as a person that did not come into it for business, that was not the entrepreneur mindset, I have my share of things that I didn't know what I was doing or that I didn't do well, and it puts me in a very vulnerable position, right? You have to be transparent so that they have all the information, right? So that they can give you the best assessment, so that they can give you the best recommendations, so that they can do their best work for you, right? So you have to be vulnerable, you have to be transparent, and you have to trust them. And so I think I also really especially appreciated my team because, and maybe that wrestling martial arts bond did it from the beginning, but I always felt understood. I always felt heard. I never felt judged. I felt cared for. And even, despite the fact that they are busy college kids trying to get their stuff done, but they're still here making time for it, getting the work done, and taking all things into consideration. So yeah, there's those two aspects as well that I just wanted to speak to.
Well, Todd, so you're seeing how we're it's how important it is to have I know you have coachability as one of the themes here and all of that. It's just so important. This is why a lot of MBA programs won't do this, because you think about the chances of things going wrong, right? You have a client, a business owner, and things are happening in their lives real time, that could take them off course. You have MBA students, same thing. They're trying to pass. They're trying to get a degree. They're also in this case, they're D1 athletes. That's another full-time job. We have all the athletics of any other school, and all those athletes, those student athletes, because it's a D1 school, that's a full-time commitment, outside of the academics. And so there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And then you have holidays, and then you have, unusual events. And we were just really fortunate when we have a client like Amari. You can see this, that she's got all the attributes that we would hope to have in a client. She's smart. She knows what she knows. She's working hard to improve the competitiveness and profitability of her business. with, I would say, temper that with her mindset. Her, this is, every business owner is different. Their motivations are different. And that's one of the things that the students have to kind of figure out is, you can analyze the business, but you have to kind of size up the business owner. What's their management style? What's important to them? What makes them tick? Because ultimately the decisions that Amari makes are going to be some combination of her beliefs and her personality. It's personal, right? So she's going to make business decisions. They're not necessarily just black and white, cut and dry business decisions. And that's what makes family-owned businesses and privately held businesses unique. They're not publicly traded. She's not answering to a board of directors. Her whole goal in life isn't to maximize shareholder value. That's not necessarily what she's trying to do. And so, and most of our graduates and most people who work as employees work for a small business, some kind of a small business owner. So we're all about small business, and small business can be multi-million-dollar businesses as well. If they're not, it's a wide range of businesses, but it's just important to have a business owner manager, to go down that path, that 8-week path with someone like that, because it's such a richer learning experience. You get insight. You get to kind of live vicariously through that business owner for 8 weeks, and it's an incredible experience. And we learn as faculty. We're constantly learning in this process. We learn from our students. We learn from Amari. And I think that's why we've been doing it for 30 years. I mean, it's of course, you do this for a living. Todd, you and I have known each other for years. You've been doing this for a living, but why do we do it? We do it. It's just something special about it, right?
Well, she got lucky, and I think one of the interesting things is when you have, I mean, that was the great thing there, is the relatability factor that you don't often get, and that probably helped a lot, because most of the time we'll encounter a business or an industry that we have absolutely no connection with. We've never, outside of maybe, visiting and using a dry cleaning service or whatever, we don't know anything about the ins and outs of it all or whatever it is. So we're always trying to, make sure we got the best resources to address that. But it was lucky in this circumstance. But I've seen, and I know for your last iteration, you had a lot of our folks from around the area that had been previous clients who it seemed like most of them came out pretty well. So, and it doesn't really matter, but just in this case, the connection was pretty lucky. So,
yeah. So the students have to make a presentation to us and Todd. So we're very much aligned with the Small Business Center Network community college system. And so Todd is at Wake Tech. We work with Terry Brown, who is in Sanford, Philip Pappas, who's in Chatham County, and the Committee of 100 is in Dunn, and Harnett County is part of Terry Brown's region. So we have, if you think about it, we have Wake County, Chatham County, Lee County, Harnett County. We might pick up a little bit in Sampson and Johnston County. But those community colleges really work well in identifying businesses like Amari's that might be interested in this. And we go through that process, and we're part of a greater small business support ecosystem. And I feel like we work hand in glove with our community college small business center folks, because Todd can kind of be that continued resource with them. This is, we're basically an 8-week process, right? In fact, I could show that. If you want me to show that very quickly, I can just show it. I hope it doesn't scare people, but I'd be willing to do that if you want me to.
Yeah, if you probably want to show, in case, I'm sure it's a question. We got a couple, including, do you all prefer the hands-off approach, or is part of the essence for them to explain more to the business owner? So it sounds like on your end.
Let me ask a question before I do it. Can you see this this kind of schedule? Is it a visible schedule?
If you can, maybe I can see it, but it's a little small.
About
There we-
that?
That's better. Yeah.
All right. So these are 8 weeks. These first 2 weeks are just kind of the students getting their feet underneath them, and we have a lot of things they have to do in this first week: standard of conduct memo, bios, and all of that. They'll send an email to their client letting them know that they've adopted them. And then in week 2, they start with some very kind of basic things like the mission statement and scope letter. And then this blue phase is really where they're gathering the data. This is discovery and dialogue. They'll do industry research. They'll work on a customer analysis. They'll work on competitive analysis. So they're gathering information, and they get into break-even analysis, cash flow projections. So they're doing that week by week by week. They're doing that with feedback, and they start working on their SWOT with attention to competitiveness and profitability. We want them to look for opportunities for improvement there. In week 7, they're presenting their SWOT and SFA strategic factor analysis to the client with some preliminary recommendations for the client to chew on and consider. Ideally, the client and the team are developing those recommendations together. And then in the last week, they refine all of that into something called an implementation plan. And so that's it. I will say to those that are listening that are thinking about applying for this, we don't have the luxury of having a 14-week semester where the students can negotiate something specific that you want done. Like many clients will say, I would love to have a social media plan. We don't have time for that. And I don't know, of all the students we have, some may be good at that, some may not be good. So we have to stick with something like that. What we can do is we can pretty much work our students through these tasks for every business. So we've had to kind of standardize what we do in order to be efficient over an 8-week period. In the old days, when we had 14, 15 weeks, we could customize because we had twice as much time. And so the 8 weeks has kind of forced us to kind of have a standard approach, but how that plays out is going to be as unique as the business and the team. So I'll stop sharing that. I just thought I'd mention that to folks. And you can go back to your questions.
Well, I'll go to this one because it gets to what you were talking about. Do the MBA students work with the Campbell Library or local library to educate small business owners about free library research help? And does the faculty enlist the help of business or reference librarians to plan the program or schedule meetings with MBA students and small business owners?
Yeah, as that sounds like a slam, like a layup question you had thought about, but whoever asked that, thank you. But yeah, there are 3 of us, 3 faculty that work this program. Dr. Mosashari, who is my mentor, I actually had him. I had him for my first 3 classes when I did my MBA, and I thought this whole thing at Campbell was a sham, that they really only had one professor, because every class I took, I had the same Dr. Mosashari. But then I realized it was just my luck that I had him for the first 3. But Dr. Mosashari and I have done this together for 30 some years. Dan Maynard is our business librarian, who is the 3rd in the holy trilogy of MBA 790. And Dan, we let Dan at those students. He educates them on all the different research methods, qualitative, quantitative. He works with them on sources of information, the different databases that are available. He has them actually do some of these assignments that they have to complete are assignments that Dan reviews and grades. So yeah, there's a heavy research component. There's a heavy making use of the resources available. Yes, short answer, yes.
All right. And then the other one was, do you prefer the hands-off approach, or is part of the essence for them to explain more to the business owner? And it sounds like, on your end, it's...
Yeah, I think it's Amari. I think Amari could speak to that too. I mean, it's as I think you can go either way. I don't know that there's a right way. I think the relationship between the team and the client. Some are, MBA team take the wheel, and then others are you can sit beside me, but I'm going to continue to drive. And you have everything in between. And it's okay. I think it's finding a collaborative relationship. And that can be a broad definition. I'm really pleased to hear some of the things Amari mentioned. That to me is perfect. If they meet whatever they have in way of common ground and they come to some tacit agreement about how they want to work together. Amari, what do you think?
Right. I would agree. I would agree that's very specific to the relationship and the team. In my case, like I said, in terms of business, I'm not the expert, and this is what they are doing. And on top of that, I am a solo business owner, so having a team is a godsend for me. Somebody to be able to take some of it off of me. So yeah, I was absolutely happy with giving them what they need and letting them go. And then we would check in and fill in the gaps as necessary. And I think what even kind of speaks to the alignment of our team was because at the end, when they made their recommendations, it was actually in alignment with things that were already in the back of my head, right? So having this team come in and they can see all around you, right? And they see where your gaps are, they see where your strengths are, and they're like, okay, here's what we think would work for you, right? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, I had that in mind and this is kind of already brewing, so let's go with it. Yeah. So yeah, I would say it's personal. It's personal to the group, but in my case, that's what worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. You establish a collaborative relationship, whatever that means, Todd. And I guess, Amari, you probably can just think about your relation, not all of your members, students, those you're coaching, right? And when you're doing things, and so you have different personalities, right? Some right. I can see you're smiling. You're kind of relating to that, right? So
if we think in those terms, you can come in and you can see who knows what they're doing, who has experience and who doesn't, right? And you also see kind of the pace at what people learn as well, right? So maybe somebody doesn't have experience in this area, but they learn quickly, right? So you gauge how much they need or how much they can do for themselves, right? So there's kind of this interplay of this like sensing on both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that I think Amari described perfectly the way we have to approach. Every team is different. Every client is different. She made me think. One of the advantages of the wrestlers working together is they're already, if you think about it, those three wrestlers already have a team bond. I mean, they're a part of a team already, and sometimes we'll have 3 MBA students that have not worked together before this project, and they have to go through their own little forming, storming, norming, performing, their own little, they have to get their act together about how they're going to work together as a team. But in this case, with Amari having 3 wrestlers that are already teammates, I think that was also very fortunate for all of us. Yeah.
Mike, you got a great question in that regard. How is the selection for the projects impacted if there are no students in the program or faculty that have subject matter expertise in a specific industry?
Yeah, that happens. And how it happens, a couple things. First of all, they're going to do industry research. They're going to learn about the industry. And I kind of challenge them, or we'll challenge them, you're going to go you're going to go meet with a business owner that's in a particular industry. And so you don't want to start from scratch and be naive about the industry. So we have them do that. So oftentimes they'll learn things about the industry that the business owner may not know or may not be aware of. So there is that's part of it. The other part of it is the things that we're having them do are time-tested basic business management fundamentals. Basically, the foundation of the curriculum that that turns out to be the tasks that they are being required to do are the basic fundamental tasks of managing a small business successfully. So some clients have mastered all of those tasks and do them very well. Most of them have some things that they are masters of and others they are not. Most small business owners will tend to spend more of their time and energy doing things that they feel that they're good at and they like to do, and they'll spend less of their time doing things they're not good at or don't like to do. And so and what happens in a small business is there are gaps. You may be great at marketing, but not good at finance, or you may be good at finance, but you may not be good at organizing, or you may be really good at costing pricing, but you're not good at negotiating. And so, or you may not have a good sense of how to scale my business, how to grow my business. You may be really good at managing money, or you may not be good at managing money, managing by the numbers, managing working capital. So the things that we're having the team do are kind of basic things that span all those things. So usually there'll be some things that the students do that the clients feel very comfortable with, but they'll also hit on some things that the client may not feel as comfortable with. But all of the things that they're doing, Todd, are basic, fundamental, tried and true types of things that successful businesses do well. I hope that was a good answer.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's got to be the same for everybody in essence. And as Michelle points out, Mari got pretty lucky, as we mentioned. Crucial question: How do people sign up?
Mari, maybe Dr. Mashari could tell us. Or there's a website. There's a link. And I can put it in the chat if you give me a minute. Let me go do that.
Yeah, you definitely want to do that.
I'll put it in the chat in just a minute. I could get it.
And I think that's the other key for any of these types of programs, and Amari having done these several, both the CYC and this, that it is a commitment to do it. So while the students, this is a grade for them and they're required to, for any business that is interested in taking advantage of it, they need to have that right mind, not just the right mindset, but know that it is a commitment, that ideally you don't want to, have an issue where you're going to bag out or wig out because something's happened. So.
All right, I'm going to put it in the chat. Let's see if I can find the chat here. Here we go. Campbell. All right.
And beyond just, somebody who's coachable, who else, what are the other requirements for participation?
Well, I would just say that if you genuinely are open to getting help, most of the small business owners are resource strapped, right? You're having to be a jack of all trades. You've got a lot of things going on. Let the team do some of these things for you that you feel like you probably, a lot of small business owners say, well, I've always wanted to do that. I just haven't been able to find the time, or I don't really know how to do that, but I know I need to do that. So, let the MBA team do those things for you. Let them work on those things. And, let them do work for you. Let them do the gather. They're going to gather information. They're going to gather as much information as they can, and they're going to lay it out in front of you. The idea is they're going to try to gather information and lay it out in a way that you can make a better or more informed decision. You're the captain of your ship. You own the business. There's never any doubt about that. The business owners own the business. They make the decisions for the business. The MBA teams are not trying to make decisions for the business owner. What they are trying to do is gather facts and lay them out in a way so that that business owner can make a better informed decision about what they want to do. And so I would say the MBA students. One last thing. We find the MBA students because they've never done this before. They're nervous because they're thinking about all the technical skills. They're thinking about, a customer analysis, a competitive analysis, a break-even analysis, a cash flow. They're thinking about these technical skills, right? What they have little experience because most cases they're younger. They don't have 30 years of career to develop their interpersonal skills and to understand the value of relationships. So that's kind of new to them. So developing trust is something we work on and how to do that. So by the end of that 8 weeks, that wrestling team really saw the value of it. They really saw the value of a relationship. They gained much more around the value of a relationship and how important that is than they may have in applying all those technical skills. But because the students are young in their careers, they haven't had that experience. They're focused on the technical skills. Sometimes they have blinders and don't realize how important the relationship is. So I would say, as a business owner, if you're thinking about this project, realize that you're getting amateurs. They're not professional consultants. They have some technical skills, but they're learning things that you may have already learned because you're probably have more experience. But they'll do good work for you. And if you meet them halfway, they'll do very good work for you. And at the end of the day, you're still the captain of your ship and you still make all the decisions. But it makes us, what we want you to do ultimately is leave this feeling like you're getting some affirmation that you're doing some things right, and that you've got a little better idea of how to close the gap on some things that you feel like you need to improve on.
All right, we're just over 12, so I want to make sure everybody put it in the chat. If you got questions, hit us up real quick. Amari, any last thought?
Nope. No, just thank you very much.
She was great.
Thank you, Amari. Amari,
Yes, thank you.
if maybe after a year goes by, we can come back and do another round for you if you like.
Appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. This has been great.